In Balochistan, the elders would make 14-year-old girls clean their beds every night, and every day they would take away their virginity from a new girl. Knowing the secret of why they do this will make your soul tremble. In an area of Balochistan where the elders were still in power, they used to hold a feast in which the elders from all over the area were invited, and along with this, a large number of nobles from the cities were also part of this feast. In these remote and illiterate areas, where many other superstitions and fabricated customs were prevalent, a custom was also prevalent in this particular area, that every year in this ceremony, a 14-year-old girl was made to clean her bedsheet, and this custom was performed in the house of the elder of the area. But the surprising thing was that whenever that 14-year-old girl went to the room to clean the sheet, after some time, she was found lying unconscious in the room. Many innocent girls were afraid to even mention the name of this mansion out of fear, because some girls used to lose their lives in this custom. But till today, no one has been able to find out this secret. What was going on in this one room in the luxurious mansion of the elders? Whenever a girl went there, what happened to her that she returned to her previous life? I couldn't, because that girl would either go crazy or be completely crazy. She wouldn't say or tell me anything. But I didn't know that this apocalypse could happen to me too. When I went into that room, what happened to me? Repentance, repentance. I was the eldest in my family. I had been hearing this since I regained consciousness. I was also very curious as to what was happening to this 14-year-old girl in that room. Childhood is the period of innocence. Then we used to think that there was a ghost in that room. But if there is a ghost in that room that kills girls, then why is a 14-year-old girl from the village sent to this haunted room every year? And why isn't this ghost killed? And why does that ghost only kill girls? Why doesn't it tell the rest of the people living in the mansion? Since I was little, many such questions used to come to my mind. I also felt sorry for the villagers. Why do they keep quiet in front of the elders? Why do they send their daughter to this room to be killed? Because it was said that every year, when the girls turned 14, the elders themselves would choose one girl from among them, and if there was no 14-year-old girl in a given year, a 15-year-old girl would be taken. It was surprising that this was not done by the girls of the elders' family, only by ordinary people like us. I considered myself my mother's darling because I was the only sister. I had 2 younger brothers. My father had passed away, but one day what happened to me was enough to drive me crazy. My mother had made me wear new clothes today and told me to dress up nicely. I was surprised to hear what my mother said. I was wondering about her every move. My mother had sewn this suit for Eid, so what was it that she was taking me with her in new clothes today? The matter was more worrying than surprising, because today my mother had suddenly decided to take me to the mansion. I asked her, and she said, "Today there is a big ceremony at the elder's house. You will go wearing new clothes, so it will be good." My mother smiled and spoke in a meaningful way. I could not understand her tone. What did she mean by this? We were slaves. What difference did it make to the elders if we wore nice clothes? My mother was a bit greedy anyway. Maybe she had something else in mind. I got lost in thought, and my mother saw me standing there and told me to hurry up. I started getting ready, surrounded by different thoughts. My mother and father had been working for the old man for years. They had been working there even before I was born. I had heard a lot about this event from them. In fact, every year the food that came on that day was so amazing that I was curious to see everything. Every time I insisted on going with them to this big, luxurious house, they would postpone it every time. My mother would scold me and say that that place was not safe for children. If the old men saw you, they would fire us from our jobs. Hearing my mother's threats, I would also get scared. This process went on like this. Then when I heard that there was a room in the mansion where a 14-year-old girl goes to clean the bed and she dies, I myself started getting scared at the name of the mansion. As I grew older and I became 13, I could see the worry on my mother's face. And then, one day, my mother entered the house panting. Her face was yellow. When she saw me, she immediately wiped the sweat from her face and said, "Nafisa, After today, you will not go to school or even step outside the house. You will only stay at home now. You will not even open the door in our absence." I was worried after hearing what my mother said. What had happened that my mother was stopping me from leaving the house? My matriculation exams were about to take place and I was crazy about studying, but due to my mother's strictness, I had to leave my studies in the middle. From that day till today, my mother had not allowed me to step outside the house. Today, she was taking me to the elder's mansion dressed like this. There must have been some reason for this. I started to feel something wrong. In these 2 years, hatred for the elders had already awakened in my heart because ever since my mother and father had made me stay at home, my father had been hanged in public by the panchayat after the verdict was announced, while his only fault was that he had gone against the panchayat's order and secretly fed a sinner, and he was an elderly man. My father felt sorry for him, but the elders did not feel sorry for my father. Since then, my heart had grown a little hate for him, and if I may say so, this hatred had turned into revenge. And now, suddenly, what did my mother think that she was taking me to the mansion? My mother left me at home and told me to get ready quickly and went out of the house for some work. Then there was a knock on the door. I opened the door. My friend was standing in front of me looking distressed. Seeing me, she immediately hugged me and said, "Nafisa, don't go to the mansion. Do something and stop. Otherwise, your life will be ruined." And she will be ruined. The words of the friend were beyond my understanding. What was wrong with that? I was going with my mother, and there was a lot of work to do in the mansion due to the ceremony. I had to help my mother. Her face turned yellow, and she said, "Maybe you don't know that every year, people from other countries invite a 14-year-old girl to their house like this, and then—" She had become silent after stammering and explaining. What was the purpose of her words? When I asked for an explanation, she said, "Every year, the elders invite a 14 or 15-year-old girl to their house and then have her room cleaned. You know this too. I have heard it since childhood. I reassured my mother that I am now 15 years old, and I know that they cannot do this to me because my mother was one of their servants for many years. How can they treat the daughter of such a maid like this?" I laughed at my friend's words. After all, we are servants, and the job of servants is to clean. Then why was she so shocked about this? Even if I had been taught to clean up, what was the harm? She would have told me something. Before that, Amma had returned. She didn't like my friends very much anyway because they used to bring me news from outside. Amma immediately scolded her and sent her away, and I just kept watching silently and couldn't say anything. I was mentally confused. Amma took me with her and we both started walking towards the mansion. After some time, we were outside the mansion. My eyes were dazzled by seeing this big and beautiful mansion. I was looking at this mansion with admiration. As soon as all kinds of fear and apprehension had disappeared, Amma took me and entered the mansion. I found the scene very strange. There were only men at the ceremony. No women were seen. I felt that there would be more work in the mansion today, so Amma has brought me with her. As soon as we entered, the eyes of these men were fixed on me. They were wearing big white turbans and simple Balochi clothes. Seeing the mustaches and the cups of sherbet held in their hands, I felt a little shy for a moment. I slowly put on the dupatta in front of Satmun and followed Amma. My mother immediately took me towards the women's room. After going inside, I felt some peace, and then my mother started doing her daily chores. I was surprised that Amma had not asked me to do any work till now. I was sitting in a corner of the largest glass palace-like lounge of the mansion and was looking at each and everything in the lounge with wide eyes in amazement. The soft and comfortable sofas, the glass-clear floor, the precious glass vases placed in front of them, and the fresh fruit bouquets decorated in them. Everything was one above the other. I was just looking at all this with a cold sigh when just then a woman came there, and the corners of her face got distorted on seeing me. It felt as if she did not like my coming here. I started wondering who this was, and I had not even said anything to anyone, so she was looking at me like this. Then a maid came to me and said, "You are being called Badi." I saw Amma and Amma motioned for me to go with her, but for some reason, I felt Amma's complexion was pale. I followed her and reached the outside of a room. Inside, there was an elderly lady who looked at me from head to toe and said, "Okay, Nafisa, go and clean the bed of Badasain." Her manner was stern. I immediately nodded politely, and the maid started taking me to a room with her. I don't know why, but my feet weren't supporting me at that moment. I felt a sense of unease in my heart, wondering what would happen to me if I went into that room because I had fallen victim to this custom, and everything I had heard since childhood was going through my mind. I had heard a lot. Maybe this was the same haunted room. The maid left me outside the room and immediately left. I had heard that every year a young girl is given a bed by the elders. I was called to get it cleaned, but then I didn't know what happened to it, that it died. I felt like there were ghosts there, but the reality was something else. What was the reason? I didn't know anything about it, but maybe the truth will be revealed today. I stepped into this room with fear, and the room in front was immersed in semi-darkness. The smell of cigarettes was also coming from the room, but there was no one in the room, but the cigarette smoke was so thick that I felt suffocated. I turned on the light in the room, and the room was lit up. All the furniture in the room was scattered. Looking at the room, it seemed as if this room had been closed for years, or maybe for a year. I felt scared when I saw this room. I had come into the room barefoot, so something sharp from the carpet pricked my foot, which made me scream. When I bent down to look, broken glass bangles were scattered on the carpet. One of them had also pricked my foot. I took that glass out of my foot and moved a little further. The bed sheet was badly scattered and covered with dust. Everything in the room was dusty. I walked slowly and came close to the bed when I lost consciousness. For a moment, my heart stopped beating and then started beating again. When my eyes fell on the white pillow on the bed, there were red spots on it. Seeing this, my heart jumped and went into my throat. When I looked closely at the pillow, I saw that it had blood stains on it. Seeing this, I immediately backed away from the bed. My heart trembled with fear. I couldn't understand what this bloody pillow was doing here. Maybe it was the blood of the girl who had died before me, because I remembered that the girl from last year had died. I walked backwards and reached the door of the room, but my senses were blown away when I tried to open the door of the room. It was locked from the outside. I felt as if my life had gone out of me. I knocked on the door, but I heard the maid's voice from outside, saying that this door will only open when you clean this room. Do it quickly. I started crying while cleaning because I was scared. God, get me out of the room. But no one heard my cry, not even my own mother. I kept calling my mother for help, saying, "Mother, mother," but my mother's heart was not even a little bit troubled by me, or maybe even by her. My voice had not reached me. I cried for a long time. Then I thought, why not clean the room so that my soul would be free from the confinement of this room? I went back to the bed. I immediately took off the pillowcase and quickly gathered up the things scattered on the bed and started cleaning. I was suffocating in this room because the room seemed to have been closed for a long time. Then I was also afraid. Maybe that is why I was suffocating. I was just changing the sheets when my eyes fell on the wall of the room, the front wall, and the handcuffs on the side wall. I was surprised, as if this was not a room for a shepherd, but a prison. I was busy cleaning the room. I cleaned the entire room. I had to leave the room as soon as possible. The room was cleaned in an hour, and by quickly moving my hands, I was giving this junkyard the shape of a room, but my own condition was getting worse. Only then did I feel as if heavy footsteps had appeared and someone had come and stood right behind me. My hair stood on end. My being trembled at that moment. It was the practical manifestation of childhood fear, because the room was locked from the outside. Then who was standing behind me? I was trembling terribly with fear. I thought that perhaps some ghost had appeared, and now he would kill me too, because this had been ingrained in my subconscious since childhood. When I looked back in fear, my heart forgot to beat, because in front of me was the big man, the head of this mansion and area, Vadera. His fear was such that my eyes would automatically fall in front of him. He had some kind of cup in his hand which he drank, and he was trying to stand in front of me while staggering. As soon as I started to move away, this Vadera grabbed my arm. My heart felt as if it had forgotten to beat. A very foul smell was coming from his mouth. He was so drunk that he could not even stand on his feet. As soon as he held my hand, he fell on his bed and fainted as he fell. And this was for me. It was better that I first freed my hand from his grip, which had loosened due to his unconsciousness. I started looking for a way out because the door of the room was locked from the outside. Then, from where did that stranger enter the room? I was wondering this. Then I glanced at the room and saw a wall in front of me, which was apparently a wall, but when I saw it, I felt like it was a door that looked like a wall because it was slightly open, and it was only because it was open that I could see it. I immediately rushed towards it and stood near that wall. As soon as I pushed it, it was actually a door that opened silently. I quickly left there. It was the back of the mansion. The night was deep at that time, and the place was completely deserted. I kept my senses intact. I examined the back of the mansion. The outer walls of the mansion were not very high. Then there were mango and other fruit trees in this area. I immediately saw the tree. I climbed up because I was from the village, so I was used to climbing trees because a certain uncle of mine had a garden, and I often went to the garden and picked berries from the trees. I skillfully climbed the tree that was right next to the outer wall and jumped outside without thinking. I didn't care where I would get hurt, but thankfully there was no paved road there. Rather, it was a rough ground, so I avoided a bigger injury. I started running without looking. I was running. I didn't know where I was going or the path was recognizable. It was certain that I wouldn't be able to return home. I kept running for, I don't know how long. I was tired from running. My legs were starting to go numb from running. My breath was starting to get heavy. But I kept running because this was the solution. Right in front of me, I saw the road from where buses went to other villages and cities. Now the path was starting to make sense. I could still see the lights of the cars there. I saw a ray of hope. I reached there while running. When I reached the main road, I stopped my steps. I was panting badly. I was also afraid that the shepherd might come to his senses and send his guard after me, or that someone else might find out about my escape. If I had been caught, I would definitely have been killed. I saw the headlights of the car in front of me and raised my hand. I started shaking it, so it was a blind step. Anyone could have been in that car, but I thought it was a risky lane. The car came and stopped next to me. When I saw the car, it was a police jeep. There was a man sitting there wearing a police uniform. Seeing the police, I felt a little scared and started crying. I said, "Help me. I am in a lot of trouble." He was an inspector. He asked me to sit in the car. Then he started asking me everything in the car. I told him everything honestly. I also told him that I could not go back to my village at that time because in the morning, that bandit would raid the first house and kill him. He took me to the city and admitted me to a shelter home. He said, "Stay here for a few days until he arrests the bandits of my village. They were big people. They needed solid evidence against them." But after a week, the inspector came to pick me up and said, "Because of you, we have arrested these brutal bandits who are minors. They used to make girls the object of their lust on the pretext of cleanliness, and that night too, they came to know about it only a few hours after I escaped, because one after another they used to make this innocent girl a means of fulfilling their lust, and only then did this happen to the girls." I returned to my village. My mother was happy to see me alive and started apologizing to me that I was forced to do so, but the entire village was very happy with me that I had saved the lives of girls from a wrong ritual at the age of 15.